Well, welcome back. And Eric and I are here to discuss a couple more things. I actually have some questions for her this time.
Hey, everybody.
So, one question I have for you, I know there's a lot of new technology out there that people are using for, social networking, professional networking, connecting at these virtual conferences. But I know that there's some other kind of less official venues. You had mentioned one to me the other day. I can't remember the name. But what are some of these platforms, and how are people utilizing these communications platforms to connect with other people, to connect with colleagues in terms of, educational opportunities or professional networking opportunities?
Thanks, David. It's a great question. And when we consider that, in this series of Q&As that we've been doing, we're talking about career planning. One of the ways that I know for me personally, from a career standpoint, is I got a lot done at networking events. I made a lot of connections at happy hour back in the day. And, because of the pandemic, obviously no one's showing up to happy hour anymore. So how do you do that in a virtual sense, in an informal way? Because one of the, there's conferences, and you and I've talked about this, David, doing the hybrid or the virtual conferences where they intentionally set up rooms or breakout rooms virtually where everybody can go in and talk. That's a more or less formal setting because everyone's paid to be there and they're there representing their companies or their firms, their job. But how do you do this just as Erika or just as David? One of the new things that someone invited me to back in January, a new social media app, is called Clubhouse. Now, there's two ways of looking at Clubhouse from an e-discovery standpoint. One is the legal issues. And recently, let me start with that, and then I'll tell you why I like it from a networking and educational standpoint. So Clubhouse is a social media audio only platform, and it's growing in popularity, but companies are allowing employees to use it. But they need to be aware of some of the potential legal issues. And so in an article by a Baker McKenzie IP lawyer recently, a couple of months ago, talks about privacy, company reputation, and terms of service issues to watch. Because if you're using a company tool, a company resource like the computer or your iPad or your phone, what Clubhouse does is, because it's audio only in the sense of like a vanishing video on Instagram or Snapchat. It's audio only in the sense that it's live audio, like we're all on a group telephone call, like in the 1950s when people had party lines.
Right.
And we're all on at that moment, and then we're all off. There's no recording. There's no, unless somebody records it on, themselves, but it's not part of the platform. And so companies have to consider social
So
media.
people are doing this as individuals. They just
Yes,
happen to be like within a like-minded group, so they're not necessarily representing a company, or even the software is not being provided by their company, so it's
right.
all personal.
Yeah. And so from an e-discovery management standpoint, technology management, what we're probably going to see down the road from a lawsuit or litigation standpoint is the fact that people are having these conversations, and it could be something like harassment. It could be that someone overshares company information in this free form space. It could be, one of the things mentioned in the article, privacy issues that come up because it wants to pull all your contacts, just like Facebook does. Wants to know, well, who are you, who are on your contact list is also on the app. And you have to set company policies to make sure that that doesn't happen. So those are things that I see from a e-discovery practice standpoint are going to be issues down the road. We may see data coming from where someone's recorded secretly someone's Clubhouse conversation. That's the kind of thing that comes up, or just the fact that the conversation happened, because you can schedule them and that sort of thing. But people talk about a whole host of topics. Any topic you can think of, they're talking about on Clubhouse. And so there are people who are influencers or trying to become influencers on Clubhouse. You could have a knitting club on Clubhouse. You could have a club that talks about all the Marvel movies in the latest series. the new Captain America or whatever it is you can talk about on Clubhouse. So, of course, naturally, some folks in the e-discovery realm have decided to start rooms on Clubhouse to talk about what else? E-discovery and legal tech, which is fantastic. Oh, go ahead, David.
I just said that's very cool. It's a great venue to be able to do it, and kind of like you said, a little more informal, almost like a happy hour type of environment.
Yeah. So the happy hour analogy, I think, is a better analogy than the old-fashioned party line analogy. If you think about when you used to go to happy hour and you're standing there with your drink in your hand, and there's 4 or 5 people standing around, and they're having this conversation, and it might be a lively conversation, and it may be very off the cuff, not really directed. It may just simply be, hey, who's going to the upcoming whatever the big conference that's coming next? So it's May as we're recording this. I think the next big conference is ILTA later this summer. And so talking about, oh, are you going? I'm going. I might go. Hey, we'll hook up when we get there. It's that kind of environment, but it's all audio. It's all off the cuff. And even though the room that I was sitting in yesterday talking about legal tech issues, they were specifically talking about the upcoming ILTA conference that's going to be hybrid, and are people going? And there were probably about 25 people on listening in. 4 or 5 people were on the stage, is I think what they call it in Clubhouse, lingo, that they had the mic or had the opportunity to have the mic to talk or answer questions. But really, anybody could raise their hand in the app and contribute to the conversation. In fact, that's how Clubhouse is designed. They want everybody to contribute to the conversation and not just stand there. So the thing that I thought was really neat about it was, it was so informal. People were joking about how all of their conversations with folks that they're meeting in person start off with, hey, I've been vaccinated. And, and someone else chimed in and suggested, oh, yeah, we probably should get t-shirts made for the conference that say I've been vaccinated. And that way we can kind of jump over that hurdle. But those are very real conversations. And then someone else on the call joked about living in Florida. And they said, oh, well, down here in Florida, it's been 2019 all year long. So no one, what pandemic? It's so people have this expectation of meeting in person, and then people in other parts of the country or other parts of the world even don't have an expectation of meeting in person. And so the thing that I really enjoy about Clubhouse is that fly on the wall atmosphere, that ability to engage others, to hear what's going on that hasn't made it to an article yet. And speaking of articles, one of the things that I liked or that I like about Clubhouse as a resource from an educational standpoint, so a lot of the articles on sites like law.com, you have to pay to play. There's a fee, which makes sense. I don't knock the fee, but if I'm just casually, say, making the most of my work from home time, and I want to use that, hour before I start working to look for information about what's going on. If I do a couple of Google searches on what's going on in e-discovery and I'll pull up some articles, what I'll find is a lot of times I have to pay for those articles. And if I'm doing this as an individual or I'm currently unemployed, I don't want to pay for a subscription for a year for something that I don't really know if I need. So Clubhouse is a great way to use your lunch hour, or sometimes they're in the evening where they pre-schedule these talks. And sometimes they have guest speakers come in and they give an actual talk. And so it's a great way, a free way to network, a free way to find an educational resource, to hear what people are really talking about out in the street. Because right now it's so hard to physically go and do that.
That's great, and it keeps you up on, the word on the street in terms of new technology, problems, companies that are doing well, lawsuits that are coming up, and kind of keeps you in the know, it sounds like,
Yeah.
without having to pay a fee. So
Yeah.
having that knowledge, whether you're a project manager who needs to anticipate new types of issues that they're going to be coming up with, or having to deal with, salespeople who need to know maybe some hot ticket items that they can try and sell, or business issues that potential clients are having that kind of knowledge before it hits the mainstream can really help people in their career. So I think that's a great resource. Thank you for sharing it.
Yeah, definitely. It's something, it's new. And, like I said, I was originally invited in January by a friend. And honestly, I was like, I don't know if I want to be bothered. But when I started listening to some of the legal tech conversations, I said, oh, this is just like being at happy hour. This is cool. Okay, I can do this, because I could do something else. I can eat my lunch, or I could, uh, you know, help my kids with their homework, because I'm really just listening, and then I can chime in, or I can sit outside and I can chime in when I need to. And that's one of the key things about Clubhouse, by the way. If you want to start your own room, you can't start your own room until you've participated in somebody else's room.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so they really are the people behind Clubhouse. Not only is it invite only, which it's not hard to get an invite, but you do have to participate in the room. So I've been listening, and I have not actually vocalized in anyone's room yet, because I've just been kind of listening, watching, seeing, what's going on. But once I start communicating and raising my hand and engaging and participating in the conversation, then Clubhouse a week or two later will give me access to be able to start my own room if I wanted to.
That's a pretty neat a pretty neat part about it, and it actually makes me think, if you were on an app like that and you just kind of started doing a regular session and you had a bit of a following, then you can almost kind of monetize that following that you have,
Yeah.
In a lot of different ways. And that being that it's kind of a personal platform versus a work paid platform, that's something that could go along with you if you were to leave a job, go to a new company, or not even have a company for a time. It's
Yeah.
almost like a professional virtual asset that you could have.
Oh, definitely. And in Clubhouse has ways to monetize. In fact, they encourage that. Uh, One of the things that I've always said since I've started in the legal tech field back in the mid 90s is that remember people's names, not necessarily the company, for a few reasons. One, companies get bought out, they change their name, they rebrand. Back in the Wild West days of the 90s, when the technology was really clunky, to put it mildly, there were companies who would do horrible jobs on work, and then they disappear for 6 months, and they'd reappear as a whole different company with a new name and a new logo, but it's the same people that did the horrible work, the crappy work 6 months ago, and you're sitting there going, did you learn from your mistakes? Because that cost me a whole bunch. I got yelled at by my partner because this didn't work out and I chose your company. So I started remembering people's names. And so when that person called me, I was like, I don't know if I want to work with you. I don't care what company you're with. So Clubhouse gives you that opportunity to start learning people's names. It's different than the LinkedIn where you're on your P's and Q's and professional. And certainly Clubhouse has rules about professionalism and making sure that you're kind and you're not harassing people and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I think it has a lot of potential for networking in this hybrid environment that we're in, getting to know people and being able to share and ask questions and get answers from people with all different levels of expertise.
Wonderful. Well, thanks for sharing. That's actually that's a great tool to know about, and kind of opens you up to thinking of all the other great new tools that may be coming out. So